Breaking news from Hollywood's business world. Ryan Reynolds' billion-dollar marketing empire is now on the edge of collapse. A shocking lawsuit has exploded accusing Reynolds' company MNTN of stealing patented technology from a leading ad tech giant and rebranding it as their own groundbreaking invention. Even more alarming, this isn't just any lawsuit. The same legal team that once took down Amazon for $122 million is now targeting Reynolds, demanding an emergency injunction that could wipe out his entire business overnight. To make matters worse, investors were kept completely in the dark. New filings reveal that MNTN deliberately hid the lawsuit during their latest earnings report. The burning question: is this the beginning of the end for Ryan Reynolds' entrepreneurial empire? Stay tuned, this story is only getting started. Welcome to Viral Fame. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss the latest updates. This case isn't just another legal dispute, it reads like a corporate espionage thriller. Filed on May 23, 2024 in the Eastern District of Texas, a court infamous for favoring plaintiffs, the 67-page complaint by Intent IQ paints a brutal picture. The lawsuit claims MNTN willfully and systematically copied, repackaged, and sold technology that never belonged to them. 14 detailed exhibits show almost identical technical language system architecture and even marketing claims. The evidence is so striking that legal experts are already comparing it to the legendary Apple versus Samsung patent war that shook the tech industry over a decade ago. At the very center of this legal firestorm is MNTN's crown jewel, its performance TV platform. This is the very product Ryan Reynolds has proudly showcased in Flashy Investor, Dex calling it a game changer for tracking ads across streaming and cable. But here's the catch: the technology at the heart of it all may not even belong to MNTN. Intent IQ's patents U.S. patent knows 9,747,398 and 10,936,962 cover the gold standard of modern advertising cross-device attribution. In plain terms, it's IA, the ability to connect a viewer's exposure to a TV commercial with their later online purchases. For advertisers, this is nothing short of the holy grail. The lawsuit doesn't just accuse MNTN, it breaks it down with surgical precision. According to court filings, MNTN's so-called verified visit system is nearly identical to Intent IQ's technology mimicking. Everything from how IP addresses and device IDs are logged to how household devices are linked through LAN networks. One exhibit in particular has been described as a smoking gun placing MNTN's 2023 patent application side by side with Intent IQ's 2017 filing. The result? An 87% textual overlap in key claims so blatant that patent attorneys reviewing the case have bluntly labeled it borderline plagiarism. And the danger for Reynolds grows. This isn't Intent IQ's first battle. In 2022, the firm forced Amazon to cough up $122 million for infringing the exact same patents. They've also secured settlements from Microsoft, Meta, and Rakujans, with far more resources than MNTN. Leading the charge is powerhouse litigator Max Tribal of Tribal Ross, infamously known as the Patent Reaper, thanks to his 98% trial win rate in IP cases. His method? Fueling jury outrage over corporate theft, an approach already visible in this complaint. The filings drip with contempt, accusing MNTN of egregious bad faith by continuing to market the technology as proprietary, even after the lawsuit was served. Even worse, subpoenaed internal emails suggest MNTN engineers openly discussed how to work around the patents, a revelation that could trigger triple damages under U.S. patent law. And the timing? Absolutely brutal for Reynolds' empire. The lawsuit was filed just 24 hours after MNTN's IPOA timing that legal analysts are calling a masterstroke of strategy designed to maximize pressure at the very moment the company was most vulnerable. To make matters worse, MNTN's Q2 earnings report released only days ago failed to disclose the litigation entirely, a move that could constitute a serious SEC violation, since the lawsuit directly endangers more than 60% of MNTN's reported revenue streams according to its own filings. If Intent IQ secures the injunction, it is demanding MNTN would be legally barred from deploying the very technology powering its flagship ad buying tools, effectively shutting down the company's core operations overnight. The financial consequences could be catastrophic. MNTN's NASDAQ-listed stock has already plunged 14% after early leaks of the case reached hedge funds, with investors now whispering about a possible valuation collapse on the scale of the Theranos implosion. But perhaps the most Shocking twist is the growing shadow of Ryan Reynolds' personal liability. As MNTN's chief creative officer and an active board member, Reynolds himself has championed the disputed technology in countless interviews, praising it as the future of advertising statements that attorneys warn could now be weaponized against him as evidence of fraudulent misrepresentation. Under Delaware corporate law, where MNTN is incorporated, executives can be held personally accountable if they knowingly profit from stolen intellectual property, a legal pathway that could expose Reynolds to devastating financial losses. For Hollywood's golden boy of branding, the actor turned businessman who spun Mint Mobile and aviation gin into marketing triumphs, it marks a stunning reversal of fortune. Industry insiders are already calling this the patent heist of the Decadia scandal, with the potential to overshadow his every past success. And make no mistake, this case is not an isolated storm. It fits into a troubling pattern of Reynolds' ventures colliding with lawsuits and ownership disputes, raising difficult questions about whether his celebrated entrepreneurial image is truly self-made or built on systematically borrowed ideas. The Intent IQ complaint may be the loudest explosion yet, but it echoes earlier clashes, including what some still call the Deadpool debacle, Reynolds' first brush with intellectual property controversy long before the MNTN scandal ever surfaced. Ryan Reynolds has been no stranger to intellectual property disputes, and one of the earliest flashpoints was the chaos surrounding Deadpool. While Reynolds has often portrayed himself as the heroic force who rescued the franchise court documents, and industry insiders suggest a far more complicated truth. The character's original creators, Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicieza-Have, long challenged the idea that Reynolds was the sole visionary behind the R-rated reboot. The controversy deepened with the explosive fallout between Reynolds and director Tim Miller, who was abruptly removed from Deadpool 2 after bitter clashes over creative control. According to Miller, Reynolds rewrote key sections of the script without credit, marginalized original contributors, and pushed the studio to sidestep contractual agreements with the very writers who helped craft the franchise. Though no official lawsuit followed, Miller's departure was anything but peaceful, described by insiders as a hostile takeover that exposed Reynolds' aggressive, some say predatory approach to creative ownership. And the pattern didn't end there. Blake Lively, Reynolds' wife, soon found herself at the center of an intellectual property storm of her own. Lively was accused of muscling into the highly anticipated adaptation of Colleen Hoover's best-selling novel It Ends With Us. The project had originally been spearheaded by director Justin Baldoni, who reportedly spent years developing the adaptation, only to be blindsided when Lively was suddenly cast as the lead, and Reynolds' production company quietly inserted itself into the project. Sources close to Baldoni claimed that the power couple leveraged their Hollywood influence to restructure deals in their favor, effectively freezing Baldoni out of the creative process. Although no legal action came of it, the optics were devastating. Another instance where the Reynolds-Lively duo appeared to take over an existing project or shape it in their own image and push aside the original stakeholders. Critics argue the resemblance to the MNTN scandal is uncanny, a repeated pattern of seizing pre-existing work, rebranding it as original and profiting, while the true creators are left behind. And this wasn't even the end, as Reynolds' other ventures like Mint Mobile would soon come under their own clouds of legal controversy. Mint Mobile, another jewel in Ryan Reynolds' business crown, has also been dragged through the courts more than once. The company is currently facing a class action lawsuit in California, accused of secretly recording customer calls without consent, a direct violation of the state's strict Invasion of Privacy Act. And this wasn't the first time the telecom venture landed in hot water. Back in 2021, Mint Mobile was sued by a competitor over patent infringement tied to its network optimization algorithms. That case was quietly settled, but industry analysts couldn't help but notice the emerging pattern Reynolds' businesses charge into industries with a flashy, disruptive pitch, only to face lawsuits over intellectual property conflicts, which are then settled behind closed doors to limit reputational damage. But experts warn that the Intent IQ lawsuit is different, far too big to sweep under the rug. This time, the stakes involve publicly traded stock SEC disclosure obligations and a plaintiff with a flawless courtroom record. If MNTN loses, the fallout won't just be financial. It could permanently tarnish Reynolds' credibility as a serious entrepreneur. And the larger question isn't just about one lawsuit, it's about a recurring theme woven throughout Reynolds' career: allegations of appropriation. From the murky creative credits of Deadpool 2, the unresolved controversies surrounding Mint Mobile, and now the high-stakes patent war over MNTN. The pattern is disturbingly consistent. Legal ethicists are openly asking whether Reynolds is simply a victim of bad luck or whether he deliberately pushes boundaries until lawsuits inevitably follow. Are his ventures fueled by inherently risky business strategies, skating on the edge of intellectual property law until someone pushes back? And if so, is this lawsuit finally the one that forces accountability, given the mountain of evidence pointing to outright patent theft? The answer could decide whether Reynolds continues to be celebrated as Hollywood's beloved business mogul or remembered as a cautionary tale of overreach and hubris. Because the earthquake triggered by Intent IQ's lawsuit is shaking more than just courtrooms. It's rattling the very foundations of corporate transparency and investor trust, exposing what securities experts now call a textbook case of deception. When MNTN released its Q2 2024 earnings report on August 1st, investors immediately noticed a glaring omission that has since sent shockwaves across Wall Street. There was zero mention of the high-stakes patent lawsuit that had already been pending against the company for more than 2 months. This wasn't a minor oversight, it was a direct violation of SEC Regulation SK Item 103A, which requires companies to disclose any legal proceedings that could significantly impact financial performance. And the numbers reveal exactly why this concealment is so explosive. According to MNTN's own IPO filing, SIT's performance TV platform accounted for 68% of the company's $317 million in 2023 revenue, yet this platform is built entirely on the technology now accused of being stolen. Forensic accountants combing through MNTN's 10Q filing have identified at least 3 sections: risk factors, legal proceedings, and management discussion, where disclosure of the lawsuit was required but suspiciously absent. Former SEC enforcement attorney Miriam Goldstein has already gone on record describing this omission as not just irresponsible, but potentially criminal if it can be proven deliberate. The timeline only deepens the scandal. Court records show that Intent IQ served MNTN with the lawsuit on May 24th, just 1 day after the company's IPO raised $287 million at $12 per share. Yet in the following weeks, MNTN executives, including Ryan Reynolds himself, embarked on a 17-city roadshow pitching stock to institutional investors without once disclosing the looming legal threat. Discovery documents now reveal internal emails showing MNTN's legal team scrambling to manage the narrative, including one damning directive from CFO Ethan Cole instructing staff to keep this quiet until after the lockup period expires. That lockup period, a 180-day window in which early investors are barred from selling shares, conveniently ends in late November, giving MNTN just enough time to try to settle the case quietly. But Wall Street isn't buying it. Since mid-July, when rumors of the lawsuit first leaked onto financial blogs, MNTN's stock has cratered 23%, while short interest has surged to a staggering 42% of the float as hedge funds bet heavily on further collapse. And for Ryan Reynolds, the fallout extends far beyond brand damage. His personal exposure in this unfolding debacle may prove to be catastrophic. Legal scholars are now openly debating whether Ryan Reynolds himself could face direct financial liability under the control person provisions of Section 20A of the Securities Exchange Act. As both Chief Creative Officer and the most visible public face of MNTN, Reynolds participated in at least 9 analyst interviews and CNBC appearances this past June, repeatedly boasting about the company's supposedly proprietary patent-protected technology without a single caveat. Securities fraud attorneys warn that these statements may now serve as evidence of material misrepresentation, especially since court filings show Reynolds was copied on internal legal memos discussing the Intent IQ case as early as May 30th. The saw and danger only intensifies when you examine MNTN's unusual corporate structure. Unlike most tech startups where liability protections shield executives, MNTN's governance model gives Reynolds direct oversight of product development teams through his dual executive and board roles. That blurring of responsibilities could allow plaintiffs to argue that Reynolds had actual knowledge of the infringement claims, while continuing to promote the technology to investors, potentially exposing him to personal financial responsibility under Delaware's notoriously unforgiving corporate director liability standards. The potential fallout ranges from disastrous to apocalyptic, depending on how the case unfolds. If Intent IQ secures the preliminary injunction they are requesting at the September 5th, hearing a very real possibility given the Eastern District of Texas's reputation as the patent litigation capital of America, MNTN would be immediately barred from using the disputed technology, effectively shutting down its core advertising platform overnight. Analysts modeling the financial impact warn that even a 30-day operational freeze would burn through $47 million in cash reserves while triggering mass client cancellations that could erase 60% of annual recurring revenue. The nuclear scenario, a permanent injunction, would leave MNTN with only two brutal options: license the patents from Intent IQ at royalties, estimated between 15 and 20% of revenue, which would obliterate already negative profit margins, or attempt a full platform rebuild process. Engineers estimate could take 18 to 24 months, given how deeply embedded the infringing code has become. Either outcome could trigger a wave of shareholder lawsuits, SEC probes into disclosure fraud, and even the looming threat of NASDAQ delisting if market capitalization, which has already cratered from $23 billion at IPO to just $12 billion, slides any further. But beyond the numbers, the scandal has ripped open the carefully crafted image of Ryan Reynolds as Hollywood's rare business genius. For years, he has been celebrated as the golden star who could turn wireless plan skin bottles and ad tech startups into gold. Yet the unraveling of MNTN paints a far darker picture. Just as aviation gin was sold to Diageo right before the cocktail market cooled and Mint Mobile was flipped to T-Mobile as subscriber growth stalled, Reynolds' quiet retreat from MNTN's Technology Oversight Committee in April, while still pocketing executive pay, suddenly looks less like coincidence and more like strategy. The timing suggests he may have known the storm was coming, raising disturbing questions. Was his much-hyped passion for MNTN's revolutionary tech just another scripted role? And more importantly, how many other Reynolds ventures rest on equally shaky ethical and legal foundations? With institutional investors now subpoenaing records and plaintiff attorneys circling like sharks, the answers may determine whether his empire endures or crumbles into a cautionary tale, the Theranos of celebrity startups. One haunting question remains: is Ryan Reynolds truly a visionary entrepreneur or just a serial opportunist who thrives on borrowed ideas? As lawsuits mount and billions hang in the balance, Hollywood may be about to witness its most shocking takedown yet. Will Reynolds cut a quiet deal in the shadows, or will the courtroom spotlight expose even darker secrets? Drop your predictions below, and make sure to subscribe for the next chapter in this unfolding scandal. This isn't gossip. This is a corporate reckoning. Stay tuned.